Okay, we can begin with our prayers. Okay. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitamena Bhutale Swayam Roopa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Is my voice clear? Just want to check once.
Yeah, it's clear, Mathaji.
It's clear. Okay, we'll begin. So Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So we're going to start chapter 5 today. So chapter 1 was observing the battlefield, Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Then in the second chapter, it is like a summary of Bhagavad Gita, answering Arjun's questions and objections. The third one was Karma Yoga, how work can be worshipped, Karma Yoga. Then next, fourth chapter was about Jnana Yoga, transcendental knowledge. Then next is, this is Karma Yoga, work can be worshipped. Action in Krishna consciousness. So we'll understand why Arjuna has his doubts, why he is asking questions in this chapter. He's asking whether he should give up work, karma sannyasa or karma yoga, what should I do? He's asking these questions. We'll understand why he is, after so much conversation, he's asking. We'll understand that. Before we begin, let's pay our obeisances to Sri Radha Govinda and Srila Prabhupada. So chapter 4, summary. So this is what we learned in chapter 4. Okay, section 1 was about knowledge about Krishna, transcendental knowledge. Evam parampara praptam. This knowledge is transferred in the parampara system. Then Krishna is the goal of all paths and the creator of Varnashrama system. Then section 3 was about Karma Yoga. Then sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge. Okay, that's the goal of all the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. It has to take us towards transcendental knowledge. That is they will lead us to transcendental knowledge one day. Then summary of transcendental knowledge. And then here, so Krishna said, whoever knows the divine nature of his appearance, why he appears, and we should know that Krishna is not a human. He is, he is the supreme. Whoever knows this, why he's appeared here, all his activities are not human at all. They're all transcendental. If somebody understands this, they can attain liberation. That's what Krishna said. And then he said, all the doubts of ignorance must be slashed, should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. He said that. And then he said, a person who is in transcendental knowledge, who has already reached that platform, for him, he is not bound by any works, no reactions of works. No, he is not bound by the reaction of any work. Then he doesn't have to perform any kind of work also. That's what he said. And we'll see how this led to more questions. And he also said, a person who reaches transcendental knowledge, that stage of transcendental knowledge, he will attain peace. He'll be peaceful from inside. Shraddhavan labate jnanam tatpara samate indriyaha jnanam ladva param shantim atirena achigachati. Means atirena means very soon he will be peaceful. Means a person who has faith, who has dedicated himself to transcendental knowledge, and who can control his senses. Samate indriya. Indriyas means senses, who can control his senses. Such a person, he can attain the supreme spiritual peace. We are all looking for happiness and peace, right? So Krishna is actually giving us the formula for peace. Then he also stresses on the importance of working in devotion and inaction in knowledge, action in inaction, inaction in action. Now, and then in the end of all this, he'll say, Arjuna, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand up and fight. So now Arjuna is asking, what should I do now? Renounce become a sannyasi, karma sannyasi, or should I, take up karma yoga, act in knowledge? So please guide me further. Like he has more questions now. So let's understand what he's trying to say. So this is 5th chapter summary. Nishkama karma yoga. Krishna says it is easier than renouncing work. Then how to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga also Krishna is going to tell us. And platform of knowledge, knowing the 3 doers. This is very important to understand. And liberation by focus on the super soul. Liberation through Ashtanga Yoga. Peace on the platform of liberation. So now he says you can attain liberation through Ashtanga Yoga. He mentions this. So next chapter is about Ashtanga Yoga. Bhakti Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. Both of us take us towards our goal. So next chapter is more. Ashtanga Yoga is covered in more detail. Here is just touching the topic. So now, so far we have come till chapter 5. First 6 chapters are about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga, and the next 6 chapters, like 7 to 12, it is about Bhakti Yoga. And the last 6 chapters, 13 to 18, are about Jnana Yoga, but actually how to attain Bhakti through Jnana. How to attain Bhakti through Karma Yoga, that is first 6 chapters. Middle 6 chapters are about Bhakti itself. It is like a sandwich. In the sandwich, the most interesting and delicious part of the sandwich is the center, right? Like that. The center of Bhagavad Gita, middle 6 chapters are about Bhakti itself. We can actually relish that. And then last 6 chapters are Jnana, how to achieve Bhakti through Jnana. And goal of Bhagavad Gita is Bhakti only. And what they are discussing here is taking us towards Bhakti Yoga. And Krishna is actually discussing all this, this entire Bhagavad Gita is discussing with his most celebrated devotee Arjuna. So the matter is transcendental. So Prabhuji actually in one of his classes, he was giving example. His example was like this. He said, if you go to Sabji Mandi, you are going to discuss how much the vegetables cost. And if you're sitting in some other place, the topic will be different. And if you're sitting in a restaurant, the topic will be everywhere, it's different. But this conversation is between the Lord and his very dear devotee. So it has to be about devotion, bhakti only. So this whole Bhagavad Gita, we have to understand like that. So let's move on. Nishkama Karma Yoga easier than renouncing work. Krishna says it's greater than Sakama Karma Yoga and it's very easy. Arjuna again asks whether renouncing work is superior to working with detachment. In India, we see, right, so many sannyasis are there who don't do anything at all. Right? We give them a lot of respect. The moment we see a sannyasi, he automatically attracts crowd and we give him a lot of respect. So that is there. But a Vaishnava sannyasi is different. We'll understand that. Krishna replies, both are equal in the sense that both are means to attain the same goal. He emphasizes working with detachment as easier and superior. Okay. Okay, next. First verse of this chapter. Deepti Mataji, I think I have to request you only, Mataji. Hope you can recite all the verses today.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Sannyasam karmanam Krishna punaryogam cha shashi yachreya itayorekam tanme bruhi sunishchitam. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all you ask me to renounce work, and then again you recommend work with devotion. Now will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial?" Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So Arjuna is thinking sannyasa means becoming free from all kinds of activity. Because work and renunciation, they appear incompatible to him. So being in full knowledge means inaction. And Krishna himself said in 3.18, he's saying, one who is on the platform of transcendental knowledge, there is no purpose for him to fulfill in the discharge of his duties. Neither he has any reason not to perform, and he won't be dependent on anybody. He says he has no need to depend on any other living being also. So after hearing that, What does it mean? After while a person in that transcendental knowledge who has attained that stage, he doesn't have to perform any duties. And in the second chapter also, he said, stay away from all abominable activities. He meant fruitive activities. And then Arjuna again was thinking, like, abominable, this war is abominable. Isn't this a kind of activity? So all these questions were running in his mind. So again, he's asking. So, but Krishna does not advise karma sannyasa. He does not recommend that, because our mind will never be quiet. We cannot artificially give up our activities. Our mind will be still. So, it will be always thinking, willing, and feeling. These are the activities of mind. So you can see so many people who have actually given up their activities and are externally trying to be sannyasis. There are many roaming like that. They take up to a lot of bad habits, like it's given actually in the purports also. You can read, it says some of them take ganja, and then they are still into that sense gratification platform. So they're not completely purified. It's until and unless you are purified from within, from your heart and mind, you cannot call yourself a sannyasi. So what is happening is Krishna is actually talking about devotional service, and in devotional service, work is not stopped. So work is not stopped. There is activity. So Krishna is actually saying, work in devotion, that is better than dry mental speculation. Okay, philosophy, just sitting and thinking about philosophy. This is better than devotional service. Is Nishkama Karma Yoga is better than dry mental speculation, and it is easier also, and it is transcendental in nature. There are no reactions to this kind of work. That's what he's trying to tell Arjuna. So now Arjuna understands that renunciation in knowledge means giving up all work performed as sensual activities, sense activities. So he thinks whatever we are using our senses for sense activities, sense gratification, all that we should completely stop. Then it becomes renunciation. Okay. Now let us see. In chapter 2, we learned jnana, that is the characteristics of the soul, how the soul gets entangled in the material body and the body changes, and all this information was given. Sankhya was also discussed. Then he said work, work through buddhi yoga. Krishna said that. Then Arjuna became confused again. He asked jnana or buddhi yoga, renunciation, in knowledge, or nishkama karma yoga. Then chapter 3, what should he do? He told him what to do. He heard about karma through jnana, action in inaction, inaction in action. So conclusion is glorifying transcendental knowledge. And then he said, stand and fight. So let us go ahead and understand more. Okay. Arjuna is actually, by asking all these questions, he is trying to avoid fighting also. He doesn't want to fight. He's skillfully trying to avoid that. Now this is from 3rd chapter. We are going through 3rd chapter verses here to understand why Arjuna is asking these questions. Okay, I'll just read. There are no verses, just translations. But for one who takes pleasure in the self, whose human life is one of self-realization, and who is satisfied in the self only, fully satiated, for him there is no duty. Right? Stand up and fight means what? You have to fight. So see now, it sounds kind of contradictory, right? So this is saying that, okay, that's why Arjuna's questions are actually, all his questions are trying to clear our doubts actually. It is all for us, not just for him. And then in the next verse, a self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. So what's happening is a fully Krishna conscious person, is fully self-realized. He'll be completely confident of his eternal position. So he knows his conditional state, and he knows what is his relationship with the Supreme. And such a person has no longer any duty to perform, because he's understood. That is where we have to get, we have to understand what is our constitutional position and live from that point of view. Our relationship with this world and everything is because of this body, that is the connection. Once we understand that I am the soul, I'm not the body, and a person who has realized that, theory is one thing, but actually realizing and living according to that knowledge, that is different. So what happens to such a person who is completely self-realized? All his impiety within himself will be cleansed. His heart is clean. his mind is clean. So, all the anarthas are gone. And this self-illumination that is happening, that is also happening because of Krishna only. He has to have that mercy. It happens because of his grace. Then he is not obligated to follow any of the Vedic rituals or injunctions. And when the consciousness is clear, because that's the goal, when consciousness becomes clear and completely becomes God conscious and Krishna conscious, such a person, it is like he's already performed thousands of yagnas. So many yagnas are recommended in Vedas, right? After performing thousands and thousands of yagnas, what should happen? Your consciousness should become very clean. You have to become completely Krishna conscious. So he's already like that now, very clean from inside. And he's already very elevated. Okay, for a very highly elevated person, he will automatically not be interested in material activities. He won't be interested in wine, alcohol, going looking for women or any similar, all other kind of infatuations or addictions. Those won't be there because he'll have higher taste. So he's very pure from inside. For such a person, obviously he doesn't have to follow many things. That's what is given there. Now he's saying in 4.33, O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better. Sacrifice performed in knowledge. What does that mean? There are different kinds of sacrifices. There is a mystery here, right? Sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions. It's like we give charity, right? I give up my materials. I give up all this. There are those kind of renunciations happening today also. There are people who take sannyasa, they'll stop using everything. No, nothing. They have to sleep on the floor, and then they shave off their head, and they completely, the way they live is very, very different, no using any electronic items, and they have to walk bare feet. There are sannyasis like that. And that is very difficult also. Plus, now what is Krishna saying, we'll understand. So, sacrifice of material possessions, just giving up that. After all, O son of Pritha, all sacrifices of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So, the purpose of performing all the sacrifices is to attain the status of complete knowledge. But the knowledge itself is not enough, to become free from this material miseries, what we are going through. Only the theory won't help. Just, I have knowledge. No, okay, that does not help. You have to engage yourself in the loving devotional service of the Lord. That is a mystery. And there is another thing is, sacrifice depends on the faith, on the consciousness of the performer. If a person is simply, giving up material possessions and thinking, oh, I'm doing a great job, it is just a material activity. There is nothing spiritual about that. No spiritual benefit. But a person whose faith has reached the stage of transcendental knowledge, and which is again Krishna consciousness, he is considered more advanced. So it depends on the performer, whether he's performing a fruitive activity or it's an activity in Jnana Kanda, Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda. But the activity, it has to, whatever sacrifices we do, it has to take us towards knowledge. We'll understand this better actually in the next few verses also. We'll understand. Okay. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga, O Bharata, stand and fight. Whenever there is a word, term used as yoga, that means we are already connecting ourselves with this connection between God and ourselves, Krishna and us. So this instruction is for all of us, not just for Arjuna. Krishna is simultaneously stressing on the importance of working in devotion and inaction in knowledge. So let's understand this much more in detail. So chapter 5, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. All beings constantly make plans for the future. Thoughts are manifested in actions, right? We're constantly thinking. It is happening on a very subtle level. We're not purposely sitting and thinking, but thoughts come like this very fast. They manifest as actions. So we have to be very careful. Then repeated actions form habits. See what is happening to our consciousness. We can understand here. Then habits make up our character. And character determines our destiny. So who is responsible for getting a body or going through whatever miseries come our way, we are actually creating it, So we have to be very careful what we are thinking, what we are doing, how we are spending our time. How to take steps in the right direction is described in this chapter. So there are steps leading to further entanglement in worldly complexities. There are steps leading to a life of liberation, freedom, and tranquility and peace. So thoughts give rise to actions. Actions cause, repeated actions become habits. The habits are what we do from morning till evening. That is what we are, right? That's character. And then that will take us towards our destiny. So Arjuna's misunderstanding. This is like a summary. Okay. Devotional service better than dry mental speculation. Okay. Then text 11 to 30 here in the second chapter, it described the knowledge. Krishna spoke about soul. So knowledge of soul described by Krishna. Text 31 to 37, prescribed duty was explained. Then 42 to 45, entanglement of the soul due to fruitive activities. Then in the next few verses, explaining the process of disentanglement by devotional service. Third chapter, no duty for a person in knowledge. See, this is what Arjuna is holding on to now. Okay, then it was about transcendental knowledge, where he said all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. And in the last verse of fourth chapter, he said, Krishna again told Arjuna to get up and fight, thus confusing Arjuna, renounce our work. So Arjuna is still confused. Why? It is Krishna's plan to keep Arjuna confused. Why Krishna does so? For our benefit, right? Even if we read 100 times this Bhagavad Gita, until and unless we understand from a spiritual master, then the information won't be clear. Just like that. So to make it very, very clear for us, Arjuna is asking so many questions, and this is all Krishna's arrangement. It is for our benefit to stress that work and renunciation are not opposed to each other. We need engagement. Senses need engagement. Our mind needs activity. We cannot say, I'll stop everything and just sit in one corner, give up everything, give up fruitive activities, and I'll become peaceful, or, I'll attain liberation. So that's all that Krishna is not supporting here. Rather, one must learn to work in a renounced spirit. So that is the goal. Arjuna thinks that jnana implies the renunciation of work, and that knowledge and work, like light and darkness, are contradictory. Krishna emphasizes, however, that one in knowledge should also work. Okay. Arjuna's confusion. You say work for sense activity must be given up. Fighting for a kingdom, even with knowledge of the soul, seems like activity of the senses to me. That's what he's trying to tell. Therefore, it should be given up. If one works with devotion, then how is work stopped? Isn't it? So you say you speak in riddles, action in action, inaction in action. I'm confused. Very humbly, he has such a nice, submissive attitude. He asks his questions in a very respectful way. And Krishna also, based on the question, he answers. He's not directly giving him information that is in the 18th chapter or 17th chapter. He's like telling him, even he spoke about there's no enjoyment. He said, yeah, there is enjoyment. Like a child is telling you, if you die, you go to heavenly kingdom. If you win, you still enjoy your kingdom. See, there is like that. He's talking according to his question. Which is better, work with devotion or renunciation of work? Okay. Who would like to recite this one? This verse?
I'll recite Mataji.
Okay, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sri Bhagavan Sanyasa Karma Yogascha Nishreyasa Kara Ubhav Tayostu Karma Sanyasar Karma Yogo Vishishyate. The personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So let's talk about activities now. So what are fruitive activities? There are activities done for sense gratification, to satisfy our senses, for bodily comfort, and these fruitive activities will take us to different bodies. We transmigrate because of fruitive activities only. They cause bondage. So conditioned soul, they work for fruitive activities and continuously they're getting entangled, more and more problems. Every action will have some reaction. Either you are collecting punya karma or papa karma, we suffer, we do something, even our thoughts are important, that also causes damage. So what is actually success? What is failure now for all of us? So what we say in this life, we say, if somebody is getting very good marks, academically, somebody is earning a lot of money, somebody is building 5 houses, that is success. Like that person is so successful. We talk like that, right? It could be all, fruitive activities, but we think like, oh, that is all success. This person is driving such a nice car. This person looks so beautiful. This is success. That all this is success. But what is success now? What is failure? Prabhupada mentions our failure is when we are not inquiring about our real identity. Whatever we have, whatever is happening, it is like money equals punya karma. Whatever we have, it is because of our punya karma. If you're suffering some misery, I must have done something. That reaction is coming. But our real failure means when we are not inquiring about who we are, our real identity, if we don't know, which is very, very important in this human birth, then we have failed. Because after death, we are going to, it's like dreaming, we are dreaming, we are running this side, that side, earning money, doing all this nonsense. Then when the time comes, death has come, we give up the body, then what is happening? We don't know. We can become anything. We can become a dog also, cat also, something else also. If we become another human being, then at least we have another chance. So we have to be very careful. Where we are going next, Roopa says, you must have information. So just giving up fruitive activities will not purify our heart. So gnana, I'm not the body, I'm the soul, is not just enough. So we have to act at the soul level, in the status of spirit soul. So we have to develop love for devotional service. It is not an artificial process. We have to develop love. We should love that, working for Krishna should come very naturally to us. How a mother, serves the child. She's not like, sometimes we make joke like there's so much work or something, but actually we love to serve our children, right? It's very, very natural for us because of love. Even in the middle of the night, whatever happens, we don't care for ourselves also. Most of the moms, we know how it is. So here, one thing we should remember is Krishna conscious activities are not done on the fruitive platform. And that any activity done for Krishna is superior to renunciation. Okay. So when a person who says, he has knowledge, is self-realized, that means he knows the Lord is the fountainhead of everything. He is the proprietor. He owns everything. He is the cause of everything. He understands that information. He's digested that knowledge and is living according to that information. So he acts in that spirit. So whatever he does is beneficial for everyone, not just for himself, for his family also. And he will not bother others, that so much disturbance is there in the society, right? So much violence and disturbing antisocial elements. Why all this is happening? This is ignorance. So a person in this transcendental knowledge who understands Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, acting in that spirit, all his actions will be beneficial for everyone. He will not do, neither he will speak nonsense nor do anything that is worthless. So let us understand this better. So renunciation, Mayavadi sannyasis and Vaishnava sannyasis. So this table is going to talk about difference between a Vaishnava sannyasi and Mayavadi sannyasi. Okay. Mayavadi sannyasis need prior purification by prescribed duties. For us, whoever is trying to, be a Vaishnava or, work for Krishna, work in devotion, the process itself is purifying because the spiritual master has given us all the rules and regulations. So that itself, our senses are engaged in the Lord's service. They're joyfully performed, actually. The process itself is purifying. For Mayavadi sannyasis, they need a lot of purification before they enter this. And then simply jnana insufficient for liberation. Philosophical speculation, mental speculation, philosophical speculation. All speculation itself will not give you liberation. There's always risk of falling down. But here action is must. You have to work. You serve your spiritual master, serve Krishna, read everything, read the scriptures, keep yourself always busy, There was this book about spiritual warriors, like Vaishnavas are like spiritual warriors. And there was a nice analogy of how a warrior is dressed and how he acts. Like that, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to act in this world? So there is a book and it gives nice information about this. So action is must. There is risk of falling down, but success is guaranteed because the Guru is actually given us everything and the process is clear. Entrance into God's kingdom is guaranteed. This is incomplete renunciation. This is complete renunciation because we are using everything in the Lord's service. Everything is coming from the Lord, the body also, everything. So we are using that in His service. So there is no question of artificially renouncing anything, right? Whether it is gold or a stone or whatever, everything belongs to Krishna. For Krishna, it doesn't make any difference. Everything is coming from Him. Use that in His service. So it's not about saying, oh, why? Prabhupada answered this question. Somebody asked, you're using all this microphone and you travel by aircrafts and all that. He said everything is spiritualized because as soon as it's used in the Lord's service, we're using it for the Lord. That is all spiritualized. So then here, what they do is they find the root, Vishnu. Here we water the root. We'll discuss this. Process is to detach from matter. And Vaishnava sannyasis, working in devotion is like become attached to Krishna. What it means is, see, now only a person who is in fully Krishna consciousness, only he will be engaged in the welfare work for all living entities. He cannot, otherwise, we cannot do first class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. What does it mean? See, a Krishna conscious person is actually in divine love, He acts from that platform. He's completely convinced about the supremacy of the Lord. He sees the super soul in every living entity, whether it's a bird or a dog, Pandita Samadarshina, like that. When he looks at someone, Prabhupada also, how merciful he was. He didn't think, oh, this person is so dirty. He's not had bath for so long. He's eating all meat and all, lying on the streets, drinking alcohol. He was so merciful. He was teaching him Bhagavatam. These hippies and all were like, come. They were the students, right? He used to sitting, a handful of students used to come. He was talking about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam to these people. He didn't think, oh, this is a dirty person. This person has a white color skin. This person black color skin. No, nothing matters. They're all souls. He's looking at everybody from that point of view, So they're not differentiating between different people. So he's completely convinced about that. He sees everyone has souls and he sees super soul in all of them. And he understands why they are suffering also. Why is somebody suffering? Why are we suffering? Because we have forgotten our relationship with God. We've forgotten our relationship with Krishna. We have forgotten all that. He's the proprietor. He's the supreme friend we have. He's the enjoyer. Krishna is there in our heart only. How many people really think about that? Oh, super soul is in my heart only. Right? People forget, right? And all this, we are so much in illusion that we have forgotten. That is why suffering comes. And then attachment to this material life, material things, family relationships, friendship, so much attachment to all these worldly things, that causes even more pain. So we are in pain. And people lament all the time, oh, that is not working, this is the problem, all this lamentation will start. So what happens to a person who is doing physical help, say you find someone, is not proper, you offer them something, like maybe you give a meal. Okay, this is, you are taking care of them. Nothing wrong with offering something like a charity or giving an item to them, a material it's a material activity, but nothing wrong with it. You are actually helping, because if you don't give anything, then the heart becomes very hard. But what is happening is you are helping them on a physical level, taking care of the physical welfare of that person or a group of people. Actual help is not being done because the root of the problem, the heart and mind, they're still suffering only, It is not at the soul level. So it's a temporary relief. today you may make them feel better for few seconds or few minutes. They'll be so happy. But the root of the problem is there. They have not really, nothing has changed. So external, you're actually offering help to the body. It's like offering help to the dress, external body. But their mind is still the same. Their consciousness, their soul, nothing has changed. So they are still suffering only. So the highest welfare work in this society is to revive the consciousness of everyone in the society. Whoever we can do our own part. We can try. We ourselves are students of Prabhupada, but we can actually help them. So that is the highest, social service we can do. That is the welfare work. Okay, imagine if everyone becomes Krishna conscious, what will happen? What will happen? The whole society will be peaceful. So a man who is fully conscious of his relationship with Krishna is actually a liberated soul, even if he is inside this world, in the material world, dealing with so many people. Actually, is actually a liberated soul. And such a person is actually, he can help so many people. Imagine if you can raise somebody's consciousness to a higher level, how happy it will be. From inside, they'll become happy. Then their life will change. Automatically, it will change. So what is to be done? Okay. So they find the root Vishnu. We'll discuss this also. In the next slide also, there is more information about this. Senses restricted cannot relish transcendental devotional service. Senses engaged perform multiple devotional activities. See, find the root Vishnu in the sense, this philosophical speculation. What is the goal? Self-realization. So they are looking for the root. It's like you have the tree, you're trying to find the cause of this. And in devotional service, we are already accepted, the knowledge is passed down. And we know that there are roots under, and what's the cause of that. It's like you dig and find the root, and you reach the same thing. What is it? Vishnu is the cause. You reach that same knowledge. But here we are already watering the root. So we are already performing service to the same Vishnu only. And process is to detach from matter. After they find out the root cause of this material existence and everything, they'll say, oh, we have to detach from matter, because we are not actually matter. We are all spirit souls. But we are saying become attached to Krishna. Detach from matter or attach yourself to Krishna. So actually the goal is the same. But here in this mental speculation, philosophical speculation, you get very tired very easily. But here there is so much joy. Devotional service brings a lot of joy, brings happiness. Your senses are restricted, but it cannot relish that devotional service, And here senses are engaged. And so many fun activities are there. Then they study Sankhya philosophy, and Vaishnava Sannyasi study Srimad Bhagavatam. And these sannyasis, Mayavadi sannyasis, they also study Bhagavatam, but they have their own commentary. They study Shariraka Bhasya on Vedanta Sutra given by Shankaracharya. And then here we study Srimad Bhagavatam, natural commentary on Vedanta Sutra. They may fall down, Mayavadi sannyasis may fall down to philanthropy, because there is no transcendental service happening. So after some time, they need activity. So they start doing philanthropic activities, altruistic activities. And here, Vaishnava sannyasis have multiple engagements in devotional service. And they have this Pancharatriki regulations, means, worshipping the deities. And there are some rules and regulations given. They follow all that morning till evening. There's a lot of work to be done. So that way, this is the difference. Okay. Who would like to recite this one? Seema Mataji, would you like to try, Mataji?
Yes, Mati, I was just
Hare
trying
Krishna.
only offline. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Jnane sanitya sannyasi yona dvestena kankshati nidvando hi mahabaho sukham bandhata pramukhyate. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated. O mighty armed Arjuna. You want me to read this also, Mataji?
It's the same thing, I think, Mataji. It's very
Okay.
tiny, but I think it's okay.
No,
So what
fine.
is happening
Perfect.
is, oh, is it there? It's the same thing, isn't it? Let me see.
Uh,
I can't
the-
see. Yeah.
if you
One
want, I
who
can
is
read.
fully, yes, Mataji, read. Hare Krishna.
One who is fully in Krishna consciousness is always a renouncer because he feels neither hatred nor desire for the results of his action. Such a renouncer dedicated to the transcendental loving service of the Lord is fully qualified in knowledge because he knows his constitutional position in his relationship with Krishna. He knows fully well that Krishna is the whole and that he is the part and parcel of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So here, what is happening? We live in the world. This world is of duality. Like we hate something, we desire something, we lament for something, we hanker for something. Something will make us happy, something will make us sad. So this is happening. We have to raise, we have to advance beyond these dualities. Okay. So a person who is very determined, who is actually advanced in Krishna consciousness, he will not be affected by hatred or love or anything, and he will have a different attitude. On a rough example is, you can take this as a rough example. What will happen? So a person has determined that he will not watch any movies. He's not interested in watching any cinema. Now he's walking on the road. There'll be such a big billboard about cinema. Watch today only. It says, watch today. It's running houseful. But still he won't be interested. He'll just walk away. It's a developed, higher taste. And somebody right outside his house, they may put a stall and say, we are giving free alcohol and it's imported and, please come, it's all free today. A person has made his mind, is very determined, I will not drink in my life. Even if it is free, he will not go. Isn't it? Something like that. We have to become like that, completely, controlled. There are many examples, like Haridas Thakur. Vishwamitra, he was performing austerity, and then Indra, every time there is somebody is doing severe austerity and all, Indra gets a little jealous, and then he'll do something to disturb them. So now Menaka came to disturb him, and he fell for it, right? Then they had a child also. That happened to him. But here, Haridas Thakur was completely Krishna conscious. Do you know about Haridas Thakur? Have you heard about the pastime?
The prostitute comes, is that Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. You heard about that, right?
Yes.
Yes, Haridas Thakur was chanting 192 rounds per day, and that's why he's called Namacharya. And then this Ramachandra Khan, who gets very jealous of him because so many people are respecting him, he can't tolerate that. He sends this prostitute, and we know what happens after that, right? She becomes purified. That's the, it is like the whole town is shocked. What just happened? It's like that. She stays. You must have heard this story in the 18 days course also. That's why I'm telling only, briefly. Then he leaves the place and she starts chanting and she becomes a Vaishnava. So that's what it is, these people are very highly, highly elevated devotees like Haridas Thakur. They change the consciousness of the other person also. They can transform another being. So that is the level of, that's the kind of, that's how they are, that great devotees they are of the Lord. So
We can call it as Sadhu Sangha also, no, ma'am? Mataji, the association of the Sadhu, like
yes,
how
yes.
they transform.
Yes, Mataji. So actually it happens, you hear Prabhupada's lecture, like we constantly attending so many classes. Like Prabhuji also says, a lot of Matajis, everybody says, please hear Prabhupada's lecture. You hear him, the message is so clear. In 10 minutes, you see, those are not just words. His consciousness is speaking to our consciousness. We immediately get the point, so I think we have to constantly keep hearing, to advance more and more. It actually helps. So much it helps. We should not waste time. So like that, that's an example that a fully purified person is like that, like Haridas Thakur. So let's go on. The process itself is so purifying. That's what it says. Chanting and all this, no? Everything helps. Who would like to recite this one?
Shall I recite? Yeah.
Somebody, Prakash, yes, Hare Krishna.
Sankhya Yoga Pritagbana Pravadanti na Pandita Ekamapi Astatita Samyag Uvayo Vindate Phalam. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, and no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So, Arjuna is saying, so a learned person actually knows the purpose of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are the same. So, let's move on. So, Arjuna is saying that only the ignorant speak of devotional service as being different from the analytical study of the material world, Sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Okay. 5.5. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, see things as they are. It's like yoga ladder, the topmost yoga, to go up, it's the Bhakti Yoga. And Bhakti Yoga includes all other yogas also. There is knowledge also, there is renunciation also, there is everything, activity also, everything is there. Karma Yoga, everything is included in that Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga actually is in complete knowledge. Culmination of everything. So here, in many ways, they are both the same. Jnana, Karma Yoga, Sankhya and Bhakti. Neither hates nor desires fruits. Here, neither hates nor desires fruits. Free from dualities. This person also is free from dualities. He is liberated. He is also liberated. Comes to understand that he is soul, not this body. Becomes detached from matter. Comes to Vaishnava Sannyasi, what happens? Karma Yogi comes to understand that he is soul, not this body. Becomes attached to working for Krishna. So, okay. So, Sankhya and devotional service. In the first process, Sankhya, one has to become detached from matter. And in the devotional yoga process, one has to attach himself to the work of Krishna consciousness. Factually, both processes are the same, although superficially one process appears to involve detachment and the other process appears to involve attachment. So, attachment to Krishna. Detachment from matter and attachment to Krishna are one and the same. See, when you get attached to Krishna, you lose interest in all these material activities and materials. We know, for a Pandita, for a, this Sanatan Goswami, there is this pastime. You would have thrown that stone, right? Have you heard about that pastime? The Brahmana comes in and asks for something very precious, and he gives him the stone which converts metal into gold. And they'll wonder, how come this was in the garbage? If he has thrown this in the garbage, what more precious things can he have? So they go back. The wife says, go and ask him for something more. So he goes and says, give me something more precious. So he'll give him Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It's like that. So detachment from matter, attachment to Krishna. So one who can see this sees things as they are. No ignorance. There is no ignorance. So what is renunciation now? How do we understand renunciation? Renunciation is complete only when it is in knowledge that everything that exists. It all belongs to the Lord. He is the only proprietor. And that means I have to no running away from anything. That doesn't make any difference. Wherever we go, everything belongs to Krishna only. Where can we go? We go into the forest, go into the city, wherever. Everything is emanating from Krishna. Everything emanating from the Lord. So there is no running away here. We have to just use everything in His service. So it is like the world belongs to the Lord. And so we are using everything that is in this world, in His service. So we are actually, Prabhupada says, the actual pollution is pollution of consciousness. If the consciousness is clear, everything will be fine. There won't be corruption. There won't be any sins. There won't be anybody worrying about why the streets are dirty and all that. So that's the main problem here. So artificial renunciation is not recommended. Okay. Sannyasastu Mahabhavu. Who is going to recite this one? Somebody please recite.
I'll recite Mataji.
Okay, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Sannyasastu mahabaho dukkham aptum ayogatah yoga yukto munir brahma na chirena dhi. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord, cannot make one happy. But a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So we have this image here. We can see the difference, right? Once Prabhupada was asked, he was asked by someone, like, how come your disciples are all glowing? You know, all your disciples, you see, glowing. How come? What is the secret? Prabhupada said the process is so clean. You know, they are becoming, purified from inside. Heart is clean, mind is clean, the face will be, that face is the mirror of the mind, face will reflect that. If a person is chanting more and more, reading all the scriptures and attending to all these lectures, trying to become purified, trying to do sadhana bhakti and all, that will show on their face. So Prabhupada said, because the process is so clean, these disciples are like this. So you can actually see that, right? Most of these ISKCON, like you see these people like Namanisha Prabhu and all this, Prabhujis and all this, you can see them, they actually glow. So they morning till evening, 24 hours, they are doing Krishna service. So we see a difference, right? It is not like normally in the society, people buy so much makeup and whatnot to look beautiful, but they look so beautiful. So how to perform Nishkama Karma Yoga? One performing Nishkama Karma Yoga identifies neither with his body nor the activities that his body performs. Okay. Working with detachment, performance of Nishkama Karma. One performing Nishkama Karma Yoga identifies neither with his body nor the activities that his body performs. By his detached actions, he is freed from the reactions of his activities. Not identifying with the body means that's what many people are doing, right? Almost all of us. So when we go and attend an interview, tell me about yourself. We talk so much about ourselves, right? Actually, we're talking about bodily designations. I'm this and this. I know this, that, this, and all this. We have a name, we have whatever we have, the education, that, this, everything. It is all, it's a temporary thing. As soon as the body is gone, everything is gone. What we are taking with us is this. That will stay with us is something that we have actually done in our spiritual life. That's what will take us further. So, but because we have to survive here, protect our body, take care of your, needs, take care of the body, like, maintain the soul and the body. We have to have skills. We have to earn. All that is something that we have to do, but we cannot forget our eternal duties, constitutional position. Like Prahalad also, he was also having bath, and morning he used to wake up, perform all his activities. He used to go to school, come, whatever. But 24 hours he was thinking about the Lord. 24 hours. Prahalad, just 5-year-old boy. So constantly, he was not attached to his body, right? He was no fear on his face. He was completely dependent on his Lord, and he was completely happy all the time. And whatever activities performed also, he knew it is not because of the body. There are, in the next few slides, we'll understand how the material nature is acting. 3 modes of material nature, all that we'll understand. So by his detached actions, he's freed from the reactions of his activities. When the activity is performed for the Lord, he'll assume the reaction. It is like you are working for the boss. The boss has given 10 activities. You perform this, this, this. Now Arjuna is going to fight because Krishna wants him to fight. And he does not have to worry about what will happen. There's no sin. Krishna is saying, I want this to happen. But he says also in the 18th chapter, it's up to you. He still has the free will. It's up to you. I've given you all the information. Now, you can choose. He says that you become an instrument or whatever. So we can choose. So here, Shkama Karma Yoga, perfect knowledge. I am not material body. I am soul, part and parcel of Supreme Lord. I want to render service to him. I will work in a detached spirit. So it is like, yeah, you're working for a boss who has given you some work, and boss has bigger problems to deal with. Probably is dealing with the profit and loss of the entire company. Maybe 5,000 people are working under him. He'll have a bigger headache, right? But this one person is actually doing that much work in that 7 hours. He's happy. He finishes his job. He does not have to take the reactions for that. The company is dealing with it. Something like that. You're working for the Lord, but the Lord will assume all the reaction. It's just the activity is done for the Lord. That's it. Like how Hanuman was working. He was just working for Lord Ram. Like that. Rendering service in detachment. Who is a Nishkama Karma Yogi? If you ask him who you are, he'll say, I'm a servant of God. What work do you do? Work allotted by God. How do you do the work? I work hard with sincerity, dedication to my best ability. What do you do with the results? I hand it over to God. Nishkama Karma Yogis, they will be good at something. Just for an example, say somebody can actually sing very beautifully, or somebody can actually decorate the deity very beautifully, or cook very nice bhog. They will do that. And then they'll dedicate the activity and the result to Krishna. That is how it is. Okay. Krishna consciousness and bodily consciousness. A steadily devoted soul offers the results to me. Krishna is saying that in 5.12. Others are greedy for the fruits of the labor. What is the result? Result is entanglement. So we can understand it like this. See now. See. So the difference between a Krishna conscious person and a person in bodily consciousness is, one is attached to Krishna, whereas the other one is attached to the results, So there is no anxiety for a person who is working for Krishna. He's attached to Krishna. He has no anxiety over the result. What will happen to the result? If it does not work out, he will think, okay, this is what the Lord wants. Sometimes it is just destiny. That's how the plan is, probably. He'll just put in his efforts. He does not, Prabhupada also, he never gave up, right? His guru said something, he kept on, just followed his orders. He was not disturbed. If something didn't work, he was not disturbed. He kept going and going. Just follow the orders, that's all. He works only for his spiritual master and for Krishna. So he's already a liberated person, free from anxiety. Okay, anxiety is there only when you think like, okay, I have to serve Krishna. That is the only worry, otherwise nothing. But a person who is always thinking about profit, calculating profit, when he's working for sense gratification, he wants to know, what am I getting out of this activity? How much money I'm going to making? Oh, what will be the loss? He is calculating like this. He will not be peaceful. There will be some disturbance, right? So his mind will not be at peace. So a person actually working for Krishna understands that there is no existence besides Krishna. And so he is fearless and is also at peace. So everything is happening. There is, without the sanction of the Lord, nothing happens. He knows that much. So he's actually fearless also. He's very much at peace. So after this slide, I think we'll do the next few slides next week. Okay, because we have finished 50%, we can stop after this. One who works in devotion, who is a pure soul and who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. This is so true, isn't it? Though always working, such a man is never entangled. So a person in the divine consciousness, there are some examples we can see here. Although engaged in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects, that he is aloof from them. Okay. So Prabhupada is a great example for this also. He was so devoted. Then, yeah, this talks about how this example is given about a lotus flower. We can do this slide. It's not a very complicated slide. Okay, this could be the last verse for today. Who would like to recite this one?
I'll recite it, Mataji.
Okay, Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Brahmani adhaya karmani sangam tyakva karoti yah lipyate na sapapena padmapatram ivam bhasa. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful action, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Brahmani means Krishna consciousness only. Okay, so this material world has manifested from the three modes of material nature. Okay, that information is there in Bhagavatam also. And Ishopanishad also says everything belongs to Krishna. Now, if this material body is a gift of the Lord and it is engaged in the service of the Lord, the body becomes beyond contamination. It is not going to incur any sins. Just like how a lotus flower, the leaf, the flower we can see. It lives in dirty water, muddy waters, but it stays clean. Doesn't get wet or it does not lose its charm. So when you are attached to the Lord, what happens? The material conditions will not contaminate us. That's what happens. We can stay like this. So a person who is, who has decided and is very determined, he will not be disturbed. Whatever happens, he will not be disturbed. So that's what it means. Okay. So a devotee in the world who lives in this world, which is full of, you see how it is. No, it's very contaminated. He does not catch the infection of this world. He still remains untouched. You can see Prabhupada sitting among so many hippies and he's just chanting and chanting. They are all dancing. It doesn't mean anything, right? He remained himself only. He was himself, the spiritual master, pure and fully dedicated to Krishna. Nothing happened to him. Actually, they got transformed. They all became Vaishnavas. He was himself. So that's what it means. So again, so you can see him sitting. Okay. So I'll do one thing. I will